Good. Pop up. It says we're live on Facebook. Yeah, it says it's live on Facebook. I'm seeing it on my Facebook stream. Okay. Smithville Board of Aldermen work session is called to order. If Alderman Eula, or is it Hartman's not here yet? Oh, here he is, iPhone. All right. Give me 1 second while it says connecting. Well, if Alderman Hartman comes back, we'll let us know. One item on the agenda tonight is a discussion of stormwater management plan. Chuck, is this all you?
Well, I'm going to let Gina Pate, Management Analyst for Public Works, go ahead and handle it. She's been doing a lot of work with this. She's very familiar with what's going on and what we'll need to do, and she's kind of put the draft plan together. So we're both available to answer any questions, but I'll let Gina go ahead and take it away.
All right, thank you. I'm gonna share my screen. All right. Everyone see that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get started. So tonight we're gonna be talking about the proposed stormwater management plan for 2021 through 2026. This is gonna be kind of more of a big picture to overview what stormwater is, what kind of the plan entails and why we need one, and basically the overall how to be in compliance with our new MS4 permit. And I also received Ms. Dotson's email, so I'll try to address those questions during the presentation, but feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions moving forward. So here's a brief timeline of the process. In March, there was an opportunity for public comment on our permit application. We didn't have anyone at the Zoom meeting, so Chuck went ahead and submitted the application. And this is a comprehensive permit, so instead of applying for it every year, we're going to just be submitting annual reports each year. And in November, the new permit was distributed and we published the stormwater management plan for public comment. This was posted on Facebook, Nextdoor, and also our website. We didn't receive any public comment, but we are going to continue to reach out for participation, especially when we do our stormwater master plan. And tonight for the regular meeting, there is a resolution for you guys to potentially approve the management plan that goes along with the permit. And then in February, we are going to be submitting our 2021 annual report to DNR. And this kind of just shows what kind of problems we had this past year, our outreach efforts, and then how we are going to continue to improve moving forward. All right, so what is stormwater? Basically, stormwater is the water that originates during precipitation events, and it also can come from snow melt. So this is basically any kind of water that isn't being absorbed in the ground. So it's entering your stormwater infrastructure and just going straight into the creeks, streams, or lake. So basically it's an area of concern for two main issues, which is flood control and water pollution. So basically the picture shows if it's on the ground, it's going into our water. And then, so what is this plan? Since flooding and water pollution is a big concern, there are national and state regulations. Because of Smithville's population size, we have to have an MS4 permit, and this is on land disturbance for 1 acre or more. And we were affected by the phase 2 stormwater regulation, and we've had this permit since 2013. With this new one, we have to have a stormwater management program, and that just kind of outlines the steps to prevent pollution. In this picture, it kind of shows the difference between a separated system. So for wastewater, when you flush your toilet, when you use your sink, it is going to the wastewater treatment plant to be treated. But whenever there's a storm and you have that stormwater runoff, it's entering our drainage pipes for stormwater, and it goes out of an outfall and goes straight into a creek or a stream. So that water isn't being treated at all. So that's why it's really important to pay attention to it, because if there's oil on the ground, that's entering our local waterways, which isn't being treated. So the stormwater management plan, the MS4 program has minimum control measures, and there's 6 of them. I'm going to outline them more moving forward and go in a little bit more detail, but this no dumping drains to river, that's an example of one of our public education efforts. We're going to be installing them on the stormwater infrastructure, just to remind people, you know, if you're dumping this out into the storm drain, it is entering our local waterways and it's polluting our fish, and you'll ultimately eat the fish. So it's just important to not dump that kind of thing into the storm drains. So the first MCM is public education and outreach, and this was one of the questions that we received. So basically our public education outreach is going to be trying just to teach people more about stormwater in general, and then what kind of things you shouldn't be putting into the storm drain. So basically anything other than stormwater runoff shouldn't be going into the storm drain. Our target audience are residents, local government, and developers, and we thought it was important for ourselves to be a targeted audience because we want to lead by example to the community. We've developed a stormwater management page on the website. We've been publishing did you know posts about leaf litter, not blowing it into the storm drains. And we also have been doing seasonal tips with the quarterly newsletters, and we will continue to do that moving forward. For public participation, we are planning on implementing a public participation program. We asked for feedback for this management plan, and then one of the questions we received was, how does the HOA get involved? And that is a great way to educate the public. So if the HOAs would like to be involved in educating the neighborhoods about what they should do for leaf litter, for entering their pools, or anything like that, like washing their cars, we can definitely work on education materials to give to you. And then you also can reach out to me or Chuck, and we would happily brainstorm ideas for HOAs to be involved, because the more people involved, the better it will be. And then we also have a stormwater concern on our report of concern feature on the website. So if you see someone dumping something into the storm drain, you can report it. If you see one not draining correctly, you can also report it that way. And then the third one is illicit discharge detection and elimination. So illicit discharge, that's going to be like your pet waste, any pesticides, fertilizer, gas and oils, dirt, grass clippings, leaves, basically anything other than wastewater, or you can, like firefighting activities, that's not considered, or if there's a state permit, that's not considered as an illicit discharge. So we're going to be developing an ordinance and enforcement procedures for that. Currently, we don't have one. So whenever that is developed, we will be reaching out to the public for input and comments on those. And then the fourth MCM is construction site runoff control. Currently, the construction runoff is set at 3 acres or greater to have erosion control and stormwater prevention, but this is going to be 1 acre. So that is a big difference from 3 acres to 1 acre. So it will affect development in that way. So we'll be developing a review procedure for pre-construction plans and enforcement procedures for construction while it's going on. And we have a year to be in compliance with that. Post-construction runoff control, This is basically addressing your long-term effects of these large construction sites, because just because you have it during the construction doesn't mean that it's going to stay that way after. So we want to make sure that there is proper controls to prevent water quality deterioration in those areas of development. So that will be, we have 2 years to be in compliance with that. So we have a little bit more time to set up procedures for checking and making sure we have checklists for construction developers and making sure we educate them on what they'll need in the future. And then the 6th one is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. This is more geared toward the city itself for municipal operations. It's just making sure that we're doing what we need to do, making sure everyone has the same kind of idea of how they need to dispose of waste properly, how to wash their cars properly, and just making sure that we're doing everything we can as on our operations, so we're setting that good example for the community. And then our next steps, so we developed an action plan to help us be in compliance with the MS4 permit, and you can find that in your packet. So that kind of just lays out everything we need to do in the next year and 2 years to make sure that we're in compliance with this new MS4 permit. So the key implementation steps, we're going to continue to post these educational materials and quarterly newsletters, social media, and our website. Are using our checklist for inspectors, and we're going to be tracking these more and making sure it's all in one place and organized. And then we'll be developing a stormwater ordinance that has enforcement procedures. And so that will be kind of more geared at first towards those big construction sites and making sure they have the proper controls in place. And then for the general public, it'll be educating people on, using our report concern features and letting the city know if they see anyone dumping motor oil into the storm drain or anything like that. And then finally, training for employees. We don't currently have a stormwater training program, so we will be working on implementing that and making sure, if they're out and about and see something, that they know what to do. And then I just wanted to show a picture of a current situation. We had East recently clean out one of our stormwater culverts, and you can see all of the debris that was in there. And so this kind of just shows why we need an ordinance, because this shouldn't be in our stormwater. That's going to lead to potential flooding and pollution. So having these kind of management plans will help educate the public and hopefully prevent this from happening in the future. So that was a brief overview. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. And then, but thank you for listening.
Thank you, Gina. Does anybody have any questions for Gina?
Mayor, I think moving forward, like Gina said, we'll be developing a lot of this stuff. This is just kind of the outline of what the plan is going to include. As far as enforcement and stuff, the programs that I've been involved with, we try to work with, whether it's construction developments or property owners, educating them first. Hey, you did something wrong. This is what you need to do. Following up, make sure it gets corrected, giving them ample opportunity to make the corrections and not let it continue to happen. It's not a stick type enforcement until somebody just blatantly doesn't continue to follow the rules. So we'll be, like Gina said, we'll have a lot of information on the web and social media. And to Mrs. Dodson's questions and stuff, if there's an HOA that would like us to come out and talk with the HOA at a meeting or something, as we develop this, we're more than happy to do that. The better people understand what we're trying to do, the easier it will be for all of us to make sure the rules are followed, and we don't have to get to that, that stick level of enforcement. So yeah, I think Gina did a great job at explaining this at this point. this is not the end of it. This is just the beginning of us starting to establish this, and we'd like to have more input from HOAs, neighbors, developers, and everything else. Because, for developers, it really amounts to your silt fence, your gutter buddies, just making sure all that dirt and stuff doesn't end up in our drainage streams and then our storm sewers, where we spend, as you'll see this evening, $45,000 to clean out that box. That didn't happen overnight, happened over years, but you can see the lumber that's been thrown in there and everything else, and it just, our drainage, our storm sewer systems can't handle that. And on the Main Street Trail, we had to replace 5 crossroad pipes. That was very expensive too. So there is an expense to this that the city's having to pay for.
Understood. Any questions for Chuck? All right, we are on the same Zoom for the regular session. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the work session.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Marv, you got the second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 All opposed, say no. Stand adjourned. I'll see you all in 14 minutes.